Hi, Pam. We're having some check-in information situation here. No big deal. We'll probably get started here in about 5 minutes, if that's all right with everyone.
Sounds good. We'll get up and step. It's a stretch.
Yep, do some exercises. That's good. Pam, we're slowly getting some folks filtering in, so I think we're going to start. And then as folks come in, they'll catch up as we go along. I want to thank all of you. My name's Jeff Good. This is our first Ben Franklin Explore, I guess we're calling it sessions. We're going to all learn and build some kites today. We'll also learn the importance of Ben Franklin. And the reason why we're talking about Ben Franklin, the importance that he had in using a kite to connect to a cloud to get some static electricity. We'll talk a little bit more about that. As I said, my name's Jeff Good. I'm the Chief Education Technology Officer for PBS Western Reserve, your PBS station that serves this area. And we're so excited about having this opportunity. With me today is Pam Oviatt. Pam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. I'm Pam Oviatt, and I'm the Early Childhood Coordinator at PBS Western Reserve. And I'm really glad that you're here today with us. We're looking forward to this, Jeff.
Yeah, so am I, Pam. We get through people getting registered and me figuring, not screwing anything up, so we should be perfect today, right? So we're excited about this series, and I want to just explain to you a little bit why we're talking so much about these series. This series is that we're doing if you're familiar with Ken Burns at all, and he did a Civil War series, kind of put his name on the map, and since then he's done a series of documentaries. Well, there's a documentary that's coming out April 4th and April 5th on PBS Western Reserve that focuses on the extraordinary life of Ben Franklin. So folks, if after you leave here, I'll show a little clip of that and I'll talk about it a little bit more in a minute. So Pam, when we look at this, I'll make sure I change slides at the same time. How's that? Let me make sure I'm getting this long.
Yeah. And Jeff, for those that are watching remotely, or those that are watching this as a recorded presentation, the QR code that you see on the screen is a PDF for making a plastic bag kite. And I think I'm going to make one of those even after I go home after making this kite. And you have all the materials that you can make that kite with at home. So there you go. You can see.
And also, so everyone knows, this webinar today will be on our project website. So if there's anything you missed, or there's anything you want to catch up on, or anything I messed up on, you can watch it again and see me mess up again.
So if you haven't had the chance, get that phone out and grab that QR code. Jeff, back to you.
So like I said, this is all connected. We received a grant from WETA out of Philadelphia, and it is all connected with the Ken Burns series on Ben Franklin. It's a two-part, 2-hour a piece session documentary that talks about Ben Franklin. He's a very interesting guy. So let's take a closer look with this video about gives you an overview of Ben Franklin.
If you would not be forgotten, as soon as you are dead and rotten, either write things worth reading or do things worth the writing.
The challenges of making a film about Benjamin Franklin are kind of endless. We kind of know he's on the $100 bill. We kind of know the kite and the lightning experiment. And then after that, it's fallen off. And so this whole film was, at least for us, revelation, and we hope for our audience.
He was interested in everything you could possibly know about all things knowable. So that makes him a perfect Ken Burns subject.
Franklin is endlessly interesting. He is the only founding father who evidently had a sense of humor.
This is the perfect moment to do a film about Ben Franklin. This is a moment when many of us want to reframe our founders and to think about them during their lifetimes, but also the way in which Ben Franklin translates in the 21st century.
He's a flawed man. He enslaves people in his own household and is very, very late, as far as I'm concerned, to the cause of abolition, but he does get there. And then he's the greatest diplomat in all of American history.
Not only does he invent lightning rods and Franklin stoves, he invented a way to unite the colonies. And so I think he's the quintessential American.
Our new Constitution is now established. Everything seems to promise it will be durable. But in this world, nothing is certain except death and taxes.
And he does all of this with a kind of wink. He knows his own foibles, he's trying to improve himself, and the example just comes down to us centuries later of what it's like to be a better American.
So Pam, I know we've got a bunch of other things happening in relation to Ben Franklin. You want to talk a bit about those?
Oh, sure. We're excited about having all of you here today and want you to know more about our events coming up, our other family outreach sessions. We will be conducting to support the premiere of Ben Franklin, as you saw a little clip from that. That's a film by Ken Burns on PBS Western Reserve. And again, that's April 4th and April 5th. Those sessions include what we're doing today, learn to build and fly a kite. Jeff is at the Oh Wow Center, and we're at the Canfield Public Library here. And so we're going to do that today. And then on Saturday, April 2nd from 10 to 11, we're going to be also doing in-person and virtual like we're doing today in the same sites. We'll be at Oh Wow and Canfield Public Library. And so we're going to be there from 10 to 11. Then in June, we're going to have our culminating event, and we're going to meet at the main library, Youngstown Public Library, from 11 to 1, and that'll be an in-person event with lots of fun things. Jeff, we're going to be flying kites and flying airplanes. So we hope to see everyone there.
So to give you, I want to make sure I didn't miss something there. Oh, we're all good. Our Ben Franklin Explorer, we did some sessions a while ago, and I just stepped out of screen. I knew I was going to eventually do that. We did some sessions last summer in regards to cyber chase and green it up. So we've kind of patterned some of these events, these family events, the same way. We're going to have what we call an in-person exploration, and it's going to be an interaction with all of us, but we're going to talk to the remote sites and any of our virtual sites. We'll have an explore activity that'll be for today's as well as tomorrow's. We'll leave you with a get outside activity, and then also include a kind of a take home family activity. So those are all kind of the different things that you're going to see today. And if you come back tomorrow, and I'll tell all of you ahead of time, if you come back next week, you'll be eligible. I don't want to say for what, but you'll be eligible for something to be a two-time attendee. How's that? And I also wanted to talk a little bit about our older audience. This past Tuesday, we did an event where it was called a book chat about Ben Franklin. And then this coming Tuesday, the 29th, I think I have that up on the screen, March 29th, we're doing a documentary discussion. So if you're a historian or someone that likes history or someone that likes Ben Franklin, or you don't even know about Ben Franklin, first of all, before you get into the documentary, we love to have a documentary discussion. So we're going to be having a collaborative activity with the folks from the public library, as well as Tracy Manning from the Mahoning Valley Historical Society, looking at a part of the documentary and really focusing on Ben Franklin, the scientist. And then Tracy's going to try to do some connections back to the area about what was going on in Youngstown or Trumbull or whatever in relation to what Ben Franklin was doing. So we're really excited about that. That's a virtual event. You can see the QR code up on the screen. And all of this, if you go to our website, pbswesternreserve.org, and you'll see an icon for the Ben Franklin Explore series. We'd love to have you attend some of these other sessions.
All right. Well,
so let's get started, Pam. What about Ben Franklin?
Yeah, we're going to look at who was he and what experiments did he do. And we have someone here, Jack, who says he knows a lot about Ben Franklin. Let's see what some of the other people know about Ben Franklin. Who was he? Anyone want to guess who he was or what you know?
And Pam, I'm going to ask our group too to kind of think about what they remember or what they think of when they think of Ben Franklin. What do we all think of when we think of Ben Franklin?
We have
any thoughts? Well, he was never a president, but that's a good thought. You know what? In all honesty, the documentary says he really should have been. Go ahead. He's on the one. I love a kid that knows he's on the $100 bill. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's correct. What else do we have? How about from your side, Pam? Anybody over there's got some ideas about Ben Franklin?
Yes, Jeff, we've heard kite. He made the kite. Oh, the lightning rod. We have that. Ah,
We've got someone else here, Pam, that thinks that, what do you think of when you think of Ben Franklin?
yeah.
Electric, yes. He had as we say, he had a very electric personality, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yes. And you know what, Jeff? How did what he did change science? And do we still use that science today?
Right, exactly. So we think of his experiments, whether it's the electric experiments that he did. You're going to find out, we're going to talk a little bit more and more. What's really interesting as we had the book discussion on Tuesday, and as I've looked over the documentary, Ben Franklin's a very interesting guy. And one of the things that really struck me is we'll talk about in this video, is that the whole idea of electricity really made him an international star of the time. And we think now how easy it is to say, you know, who's an international star? And we think of music folks, and we think of sports personalities, but Ben Franklin was the Kardashians of the day. So yeah. Let's go to our next slide and see what we have going on here, Pam.
Okay.
So what we're going to do today is, so we've already come up with some of the big ideas, right? We talk now about kites and electricity. Those are some big ideas. We also talked about, and we're going to see a little bit about that lightning was a form of that electrical energy. Up to that point, one of the things in the documentary, and we'll talk a little bit later, is that before Franklin really kind of understood about electricity, folks used to have electricity parties. And they literally would go to a party and shock each other. And that was like a big thing because it was electricity. You know, how much have you done that in the wintertime, right? You scoot your feet on the floor and you touch your sister or your brother or your mom and dad, and you shock them. Imagine a whole group of people all dressed up, and that's what they did. They shocked each other because it was considered a magic trick. Think about how far we've come since that time. And then we're going to talk about our big idea is static electricity, and we're going to wrap things up today with how kites fly. So Pam, on your end, where are we at now?
Well, let's look at the real Ben Franklin story. He was a printer before.
Thank you to Target for supporting PBS. 'Twas back in the olden days when $100 founding father Benjamin Franklin flew his kite and key into a storm. Lightning did strike upon it, and old Ben discovered electricity. Nearly every school child in America has heard this tale thanks to cartoons, storybooks, art, etc. And that version of the story is false, which is a shame because the true story of what Benjamin Franklin was doing when he made the extremely questionable decision to fly a kite in a storm is the story of a truly pivotal moment in science and history, not just for America, but for the world. Now, historians hate it when people say, this one moment changed everything, because it's almost never that simple. But this is one case where that might actually be true. Without this experiment, we may not even know the name Ben Franklin today, and American history might have gone quite differently, if there even was an America. So gather round, let me tell you the true tale of one Benjamin Franklin, philosopher and phenom of Philadelphia, America's most scientific founding father, and how he tamed thunder with his electric kite. Ben was born in Boston, the 15th of 17 children to a candle-making family, a pretty good business before the whole electricity thing was figured out. Young Ben was fond of swimming, and once wowed his friends by surfing across a lake pulled by a kite, while under obvious foreshadowing. After just 2 years of school, Ben goes to work for his brother, printing news and learning how to make fun of the king, which gets his brother in trouble, so Ben takes over and becomes a hit, writing things under other people's names. But all the while, there's an aching in his heart for his one true love, science. You see, it's the peak of the Enlightenment, with a capital E, so you know it's important. See, in the early 1700s, colonists were pretty superstitious. Comet in the sky? No, that's a warning from heaven. Smallpox got you down. Ye must have sinned too greatly. Neighbor look at you funny? Oh, they're a witch. So teenage Ben runs away, spends a year in London making friends with scientific smarty pantses, and returns to Philadelphia, a printer by trade, but a scientist in his heart. Nerds across the pond were obsessed with American flora and fauna, and Franklin became the guy who could get you what you need. In exchange, his continental cronies turned him on to Europe's hottest scientific craze, electricity. People had known for centuries that if you rubbeth a chunk of amber, stuff would sticketh. In Latin, amber was called electrum, so Francis Bacon named this attraction electric. The 1700s sparked a craze of electric entertainment, and people started rubbing glass rods and electrifying anything they could get their hands on. Women, children. Louis XV once had 180 soldiers hold hands just so he could shock them all with a static spark. And Franklin even electrocuted himself zapping America's honorary bird for Christmas dinner. People began to notice these sparks behaved suspiciously like that stuff from the sky. But every time lightning killed a cow, fricasseed a farmer, or torched a town, the explanation offered was supernatural, not scientific. I mean, lightning did seem to strike church steeples more than any other type of building. To pious Puritans and humble Quakers, this was obviously a sign from heaven or hell, but Ben had a more lofty explanation. Tallest point in town, anybody? Pointy metal thing on top? Anyone? Anyone? His revolutionary idea was lightning is electricity, and he set out to prove it. No, it's not time for the kite yet. Ben's idea was a long iron rod extending down through a roof. The experimenter holds a wire connected to the ground, and when an electrified cloud passes over, some of the charge would pass through as sparks. Quick side note, this was an insane idea, because if lightning did strike that rod instead of just a cloud with some charge passing over, the person inside would be extremely dead. Now, Franklin never did this experiment himself, but he did write it down in a book, Experiments and Observations on Electricity Made at Philadelphia, published in 1751 and an instant international bestseller across electricity-crazed Europe. This book held all electrical knowledge known at the time, considered by many second only in importance to the works of Isaac Newton. Franklin invented the terms electrician and battery, and was the first to describe charges as positive or negative. Electricity went from parlor trick to a key element of the natural sciences. It could be studied and described and even controlled, and it was time to prove it. 'Twas June 1752, just outside of Philadelphia. With a storm a-brewin', Ben and his son William launch into the air a silk kite, a metal rod extending from its top. A twine of hemp extends from the kite to a metal key, and from the key to Ben's hand a silk ribbon, which he holds from under a doorway. These are crucial details because silk is a poor conductor and Ben needed it and himself to stay dry. Now as rain soaked the kite and lined strands of hemp stood erect with electric charge, and as Franklin drew his hand toward the key, it drew sparks of electric fire very copiously. Today we understand that inside storm clouds, as ice crystals are blown upwards, they bump into tiny falling droplets which steal their electrons. A positive charge builds up in the top of the cloud, and the bottom of the cloud becomes more negative, making the ground beneath the cloud more positive. If this difference becomes too great, nature, desiring cloud and ground to be perfectly balanced as all things should be, evens out the charge through a column of superheated ionized gas that we call lightning. Now Franklin's kite and metal rod, wet from the rain, became a shortcut, so this unbalanced charge could jump between cloud and earth without lightning. Franklin himself, insulated by the silk string, became the ground wire of a giant atmospheric circuit, and the sparks he witnessed proved once and for all that thunderclouds are electrified. To be clear, Franklin's kite was not struck by lightning, because that obviously would have killed him. You lied to us, Disney. To say this was a huge deal in the scientific community is the understatement of the 18th century, because like Newton had done with gravity, Franklin had unraveled the workings of a force of nature, further unifying Earth and the rest of the universe under one set of natural laws. And this turned Franklin into an almost sorcerer-level celebrity. I mean, you think he got famous for bifocals or some stove? Ha! Here was a guy who could empty clouds of their thunder. Awards, honorary degrees, and FaceTime with the richest and most powerful people in Europe, which was about to come in handy. America tells the British where they can stick their tea, independence is declarationed, and revolution is upon us. Small problem. The British have lots of guns, boats, and money. The colonies, not so much. Solution? Ben the Electric Wizard Franklin is made Minister Plenipotentiary to France. His scientific fame had earned him the ear of the king, who, eager to poke his old nemesis the British in the eye without the messiness of his own war, decides to secretly fund and arm the colonists. A few Lafayettes and Yorktowns later, King George gives up and the USA becomes a thing. So let's put this all together. If Ben Franklin doesn't fly his kite, He doesn't prove thunderclouds are electrified. He doesn't become the colonial Carl Sagan. He doesn't become King Louis's bestest American friend. And France doesn't help us beat the British. You hear that, America? You're here because of science. Now it's time you start acting like it. So that's the real story of Ben Franklin and his kite. It wasn't struck by lightning. He didn't discover electricity. But what he did do was show the world that yet another force of nature could be understood thanks to science. And that is a spark that changed the world.
What do you all think about that?
Mhm.
Well, this project, we're also working with the Public Library of Youngstown and Mahoning County. And so our friend Amy at the library is going to talk a bit about a book that y'all can go get at the library that talks about Ben Franklin. And perhaps for our two-time folks, they might actually get a copy of that book, but I don't know yet. So let's take a closer look and talk to Amy at the library.
Alrighty, the first book that I am going to talk about is Who Was Ben Franklin by Dennis Bridle Frayden. And this is such a fun series of books in which they have chosen different famous people to write who were they. And Ben Franklin was someone for sure they had to talk about. I love this caricature of him on the cover, and this art is throughout the book. It is hilarious. And on the back of the book, it talks about who was Ben Franklin. Was he a founding father of the United States of America, an inventor who created bifocal glasses, a musical instrument, and an artificial arm? Was he a scientist who discovered the nature of lightning? And there's a check mark, and it says he was all of the above. This is perfect for young readers. I would say anyone from, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. It is a great biography that talks about all different areas of his life, from his childhood to his printing career as an inventor and scientist, and his political career. This is great for all readers, and I think you'll really enjoy it.
So if you have an opportunity to visit your local library, that book is available, Who is Ben Franklin, as well as a lot of other books. So let's just talk a minute, Pam. Your group and our group is, now that we've learned a lot about Ben Franklin, a little bit in about a 6-minute segment, why I'm going to ask this group, why was the kite important in that electricity experiment? And ask your folks too, Pam.
I sure will. Why was it important? Why was that kite important?
Why was the kite important, folks? Hold on, let me talk to you about why the kite was important. Are you ready? Why was the kite important? Jeff says.
Well, we have an answer.
The kite was important.
We have an answer here, Jeff, that says that was what he used to go up in the storm cloud, which then sent that static electricity back. Is that? Mm-hmm.
In our group, I turned the lights off and turned the lights back on, and they understood it's about electric, huh?
Mm-hmm. Well,
go ahead, Pam.
I was going to say, no kidding. Historians already said that Ben Franklin's discovery made him one of the first international stars, but it's so important. Look how much we use electricity now.
So we're going to move ahead a little bit, Pam, and we're going to go right on to thinking about now we're going to talk about kites, right?
Right.
How many folks here have flown a kite? I got lots of folks raising their hands here, Pam. How about your place?
Same way, lots of hands, everybody.
But the question that I think everyone has is why, Pam, why does a kite fly?
Well, Jeff, a kite flies because it has this lifting force. It has to have the lifting force of the wind to overcome both the downward pull of gravity and that air resistance to the forward motion of the kite called drag. And we've all tried to fly a kite with no wind, and we have to create that. So then you are creating that. And then we all have kite tails. And while kite tails are a quick and often easy way to add color and flair to your kite, more importantly, kite tails also help to keep the kite stable and point it in the right direction. A tail stabilizes your kite by adding that drag to the kite. It's impossible to fly a kite with no wind at all. The kite needs that airflow to generate lift and cause the kite to stay airborne. If there is no wind blowing at the ground level, the kite may need to provide, or the flyer, you may need to provide the forward motion to get the kite to climb to at least a level where the wind is blowing. And I've done a lot of running, Jeff, I bet you have too, to do that.
Well, and it's a great tie-in, Pam. How many folks here are Daniel Tiger fans? Anyone know? I don't even know who this guy is. Who's Daniel Tiger? Is he like as exciting as Ben Franklin? I think so. Well, you know, one of the things Pam talked about lift and drag and all of the different, that we need wind. But there's one thing that we need to talk about with Daniel Tiger is we really need to talk about, and we're going to go to this site here. And this is in the pbskids.org website. And we're going to learn about one more thing that you need.
Your show will start after this.
And that's teamwork.
Right.
Don't you wish you could watch the PBS Kids channel in your dog's house? Or on a walk?
I don't want to watch it.
Just tap the live TV button on your PBS Kids video app.
Now this is the way it's supposed to be.
Download it now and enjoy full episodes of all your favorite shows.
Daniel and Katerina will hold the kite.
Over this way.
Now, get ready for the teamwork.
Okay.
Oh, start running.
Okay, hoo-hoo.
And Katerina and Daniel will let go of the kite so it can fly. Okay?
Yeah, I can do that. Okay, let go. It's up, it's up. Fly. This makes me so happy. Meow,
How many times has this happened?
It's down. That doesn't make me happy. Let's try again, Meow Meow. Yeah, tell us when to let go. Okay, let go. It's up, it's up. Kite. I love this part. It's down again. Whew, I'm so mad. Let's try again. I want to, but hoo-hoo. What's wrong, Meow Meow? I'm happy to play with the kite, but hoo-hoo. I'm mad that I can't get it to stay up. Oh, yeah. Your feelings are all mixed up. That happened to me. Sometimes you feel two feelings at the same time, and that's okay. Sometimes you feel two feelings at the same time, and that's okay.
Having two feelings at the same time happens to everyone. There's a word for that. You're feeling ambivalent.
Ambivalent. Ambivalent. Yeah, I'm happy we get to fly the kite, but I also feel mad.
If it makes you feel happy to fly the kite, then I think you should keep trying. We need a good gust of wind to keep that kite flying.
Hoo-hoo. Well, okay, Uncle X. I'll keep trying. We will too. Ready, Daniel? Okay. Come on, Kite. Let's fly! Fly, Kite! It's up! It's up! Fly, little kite! Fly! We did it! Meow, meow! Woohoo! Now I feel happy! It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for...
There you go.
There you go. And Jeff,
So what did we find out? Oh, I'm sorry, Pam, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say there are three main parts of the kite. There's the kite body that comes in different shapes and sizes. And then we're going to talk about the other two too, or the other parts rather.
Yeah, and right now, Pam, I've got the kite I'm showing the folks that we'll be handing out here in a bit. But let's talk a little bit about the parts of the kite, right? So we've got some kind of simple parts that we all think about, and this is a very simple kite. You're gonna have a lot of fun flying it and putting it together. But the main parts that we really look at are this whole concept of what we would call the spine of the kite. And then we have what we call the spar of the kite. So your kite's going to be connected, and I'm not going to do it right here, right now. But then your spar is your lines that go across. Your spine is the part of the kite that goes up and down. What are some other parts of the kite, Pam, that you've got?
Sure. Then you have the frame, which joins the spike and the spar, and that forms the shape of the kite and makes it a support for the cover that goes over the kite. And then you have the cover or the body, the paper, plastic, or cloth that comes from the frame of that covers the frame of the kite. And that's the part we're going to be decorating in just a little bit. And then we have the bridle. That's one or more strings that are connected to the spine or the spar, which help control the kite in the air. And Jeff, what do you have there?
Oh, we lost you, Pam.
Oh,
There you go.
okay. We also have the flying line, the string running from the bridle, where you hold it to fly the kite. And then, of course, we have the tail. We talked about that earlier. And that's that long strip of paper or plastic or ribbon that helps to balance the kite. And not all kites, though, and you've probably seen some that don't need tails, depending on how they're created. And then we have the reel. That's the object you use to wind your flying line or let it go and let it fly.
So let's jump right into our kite. So let's, Stephanie, at your sites, Pam, I don't know whether you've already handed out your kites, but we're gonna hand out our kites here. And once we get our kites, we're gonna kind of go through the step by step, and then we're gonna move towards putting this kite together. So we're handing out the kites now, and I just wanna make sure y'all, when we get started, as your moms and dads will tell you, the first in any project, you gotta check out your parts, right? So the first thing you wanna do is you wanna check all of your parts, and you wanna make sure you have all those parts available to you. So you're gonna have everything from the spine that's in the back. You're gonna have
the cross rods. You want to make sure you have that. You're going to look and see if you have that cover for it. Okay. But Jeff, I'm thinking the best way to do it is probably look to decorating the cover first.
We're looking at our parts here, right? We're gonna pull them all out. We're gonna take a peek at all of them. Obviously, we got our frame, we've got our tail. So before we start putting All right, so here's what we're gonna do next. Before you build your kite, I gotta make sure. Before you build your kite, what I'd like you to do is flip your kite over. So you're gonna flip the kite over from where all your parts are. And at all of your tables, you're gonna have magic markers. What I'd love for you to do is decorate the back of your kite before we build it. So we're gonna have a timer. So you flip your frame over. There you go, perfect. And then get your magic markers and decorate your kite. We're gonna have about 10 minutes to do this. So for the first, I wanna say the first 5, 6, 7 minutes, we'll just spend some time decorating your kites. Put your name on it. I wanna make sure that we're showing our kites to the folks out there in Canfield. Is that where you are, Pam?
We are, and they're already starting to decorate their kites. They are just busy working on these.
Perfect. And then when it gets to be about 5 minutes or so left, or 4 minutes left, then we're gonna put our kites together. So you'll have your beautiful decorated kite. You're gonna put it together, and we'll talk a little bit more about other kite stuff. So I'm gonna give you a 10-minute timer and start working on your kites. We've got some great kites here, Pam. I've got to say, people are working hard. I'm going to turn my camera around.
Oh, that sounds good, Jeff. We'll turn our camera around too. We were looking up how long Ben Franklin lived. So we came up with how old he was. Boy, he had a long life. We're going to turn our camera around too.
I'm glad you're taking it serious. Oh, I haven't got to tell. Oh, yeah. Okay. We're happy to see it. Yeah. Do you really? Why do you like so much?
There's some really good designs here. We're so excited.
Well, Pam, as we explained, one of the things we talked about is while folks are designing, they've got to realize that they want to make everything on their kite big, because when it gets way up in the air, we want folks to be able to see those designs.
Oh, right. Good idea. Make it colorful and big.
Yes, I am. I'm not good at drawing, but it's fun.
I would not be able to tell you that. That's wonderful.
I'm not listening.
I think you're a little hard on yourself.
You know what would be really good at this? I don't know what I am. Nana could probably make an amazing.
So in about another minute or so, you'll be able to take, when you take these home, you can do and finish coloring. In about another minute, we'll put our kites together. So Mom, Dad, and others, you've got instructions with the yes, sir. But if you accidentally take those markers with you, I have no way to stop you.
Okay, got it.
You're doing a great job. Wonderful. Oh, actually, it's more than that. There you are.
That's better.
All right, folks. Well, let's take some time right now to begin to maybe put our kites together. Take a little break from coloring and start putting our kites together. Let's see what they'll look like. And you can continue to color them once the spine's on the back. I just figured it was easier.
So we've got the directions. I'm gonna flip mine over to mine first, okay?
The biggest question is.
All right.
Oh, you got it. Okay. And that is, you've got that the right way. Yep. And parents, make sure you take that instruction sheet home with you in case you have any questions. And like I said, I think actually on that instruction sheet is a QR code that you can hit with your phone and it'll play that video that we saw.
Make it. I would love it.
I think I said this instruction, I messed them up somehow, I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah? Easy and hard. It's life, but.
I think you get the award for following the directions the best.
Well, my little red guy got flipped around.
Oh, did he? Okay.
I just had to fix him.
It's funny how in the video they address that directly.
Yeah.
There you go, and then you flip it over, you've got your connection, and then you can do your quicker, then you've got your tail on the bottom. Yes, you do. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, Pam, we're going to start wrapping up here in the next minute or so. As you can see, we've got folks that have put their kite together. We've got folks that are wrapping things up. While folks are wrapping up, continue to work, continue to color. But you know, the amazing part about kites are, there's all different, we're doing a simple kite, but there's all different kinds of kites that are out there. So while you continue to work, we're going to play a video from, I'm trying to remember, it's a PBS show, that they talk about all the different kinds of kites, everything from kite ballet to precision kite flying, things that I think you all get excited about watching getting into after this.
If you're ready, steady, if you're ready.
Hi, I'm Danielle.
And I'm Jasmine.
And we like to fly kites at the beach, at the park, and wherever the wind is blowing.
Okay, let's go.
All right, let's get this kite put together. I like to fly sport kites, which fly without a tail, and most importantly, use 2 strings instead of 1, which allows me to do precise tricks like these. The one thing that attracted me to the sport the most would probably be my dad. He had gotten into this when he was a teenager, and about 4 years ago, he introduced me to it, and ever since then, I've been flying kites. There are even sport kite competitions with 2 major categories. First is ballet. Not that kind of ballet. Oh. Kite ballet is an artistic kite routine or series of maneuvers that are set to music, like a dance routine. The second type of competition flying is precision flying, where I am judged by how precise I can get my kite to do specific moves like the figure 8 or the square. In just a few days, I'm competing in a big sport kite competition on the beach.
All right, who's the next competitor?
I've been practicing hard, and I've noticed that not all kites are created equally. They come in all shapes and sizes, and I need to figure out which will help me perform my best in the precision flying competition and in the ballet routine. These here are my top 3 contenders, and as you can see, they all kind of have the same hang glider-like design. And they probably have about the same surface area, but the big difference is the shape.
Yeah, this one looks the tallest and the skinniest. This one down here looks the shortest and the widest, and this one looks somewhat in between those 2.
I wonder how the kite's shape will affect the way it performs in the sky. We'll be trying out 3 tough maneuvers. The first is the figure 8. The kite flies like this. The second is the square. The kite flies like this. And the third is the cascade, which kind of looks like this. We're gonna test the kite's performances on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being the best. Kite number 1, tall and narrow. Kite doesn't fly well. We're trying to keep all variables equal except the kite shape. So we'll use the same string, the same bridle adjustments, and fly in the same location for each test. That way. Unfortunately, we can't control the wind and keep it equal for each test. So the best we can do is use this wind meter to measure the wind speed before each flight and take that into account later when we evaluate our results.
Okay,
6?
around 6.
Okay,
Yeah, 6.
Okay, now I'm gonna be doing the figure 8.
Okay.
In. Out.
I think I would rate that a 9.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Next up, we tried the square.
Flying higher than God in my dreams.
Out.
Wow, that was really nice.
Thank you.
I think I would rate that one 8.
The tall and narrow kite scored well on both precision moves, so our next test was on the ballet move called the cascade. Okay, ready?
Ready?
Here we go.
Was it supposed to do that?
No.
No, I didn't think so.
It was really bad.
Yeah. I think I would rate it a 2, pretty low.
Yeah, it wasn't good at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Kite number 2, medium. We checked the wind and then ran the medium kite through the figure 8.
I'm gonna rate it around a 7.
And the square. Out.
I would rate it a 6.
Okay. And finally, the cascade. You know, this kite, it's not a good ballet kite at all. It's good at precision. I don't think that's what it was supposed to do. So the medium kite got a 7 on the figure 8, a 6 on the square, and a 5 on the ballet move called the cascade. Kite number 3, short and wide. We did the same tests on the short and wide kite and found that it performed poorly on the figure 8.
Rating 4.
And the square.
I would rate that a 3.
Yeah, but was the first kite to ace the cascade. There, that's what it's supposed to look like. Ta-da! Yay! The short and wide kite got a 4 on the figure 8, a 3 on the square, and a perfect 10 on the cascade. With our test complete, we made a chart with each kite's rating on the figure 8, the square, and the cascade. The wind was fairly steady at 4 to 5 miles per hour all day. Wow, as I look at these results, it looks like the tall and narrow kite design gave me the best performance on the 2 precision stunts.
Why do you think that is?
The tall and narrow kite doesn't catch as much air, which means it can make wide, smooth turns like a figure 8, but not the quick ballet maneuvers of the cascade.
Yeah, and it's interesting that even though the short and wide kite performed terribly on the precision moves, it scored a perfect 10 on the only ballet move.
The wide kite did catch more air like I thought it would, and that was great for the cascade, where it needs to kind of stall in the air.
So the shape of the kite affects the way the wind flows by it.
And that affects the way the air lifts the kite. Yeah, and we want the wind to push our kite in a way that would give us a good performance. So, I think I'll use the tall and narrow kite in the precision competition and the short and wide kite for my ballet routine. And you know what? Now it's time for me to put my money where my mouth is.
Or your kite where the wind is.
I can't believe you just said that.
Oh, let's go.
This is the annual Seal Beach Sport Kite Competition. Later, I'll use my short and wide kite in the ballet competition. But first, I'm competing with my tall and narrow kite in the precision competition.
Okay, it's time for the precision competition to begin. Who's first?
Just like every other competition that I've flown in, I was up against adults, and this time it just didn't intimidate me. Out.
Good job!
That's great. The music that I flew to for my ballet routine was the soundtrack from Titanic, and I think one of the main reasons why I chose that piece of music was because of all the dramatic points that it had, and I know for all those points, I can put in some type of figure to go along with the music.
Well, Jeff, that was a lot of fun. And watching that ballet, we have some kites to show you that we've done too.
Great. Well, Pam, why don't you show up what kites you have at your site?
Okay, let's.
Let me stop the screen. Here we go. All right. Hey, Pam, we're going to put up our kites now here at Oh Wow in Youngstown.
Great just to see them. There you go. Yay. It's going to be in Youngstown also. Oh, they're beautiful. Ben Franklin had nothing on us. They're wonderful. Great, great. Yeah, very nice. Well, Jeff, as they're showing us their kites, we want to remind people to go outside, fly your kite. It's healthy, it's an active outdoor activity, and there's so many great lessons to be learned while flying your kite, and it's related to science and physics and aerodynamics, weather, and ecology. But you got to pick the perfect location for kite flying that's open, like a beach or a wide open field, or check out your local parks or ball fields or farms. And the more room you have, the more fun you'll have kite flying, because more than once I've got a kite stuck in a tree. So the hardest part, as we said, is getting that kite up in the air. So remember that you might have to help in running and get that onward motion to get it up in the air where the wind hits it. So if you have flying your kite, you go home and you can fly your kite, have someone take a picture of it and send it to us at education@pbswesternreserve.org. And we'll feature it in the next session. And we'd love to see it.
Pam, you brought up a great point that sometimes I think all of us realize. I can remember, I love flying a kite, but the parts I always remember was when that tree eats my kite. Anyone here a Charlie Brown fan? Remember his whole story about how the kite eating tree? Well, Pam, I know someone at your site, we have a book that we wanted to share real quick with the folks, a read along book, and it's called Stuck. And I think some folks over at Pam's site are going to do a quick read on that because it's a quick book.
All right. Well, we have Samantha from the Canfield Public Library. Who's going to read?
Okay, this is a little stuck. Floyd got his kite stuck in a tree. You see it in the tree?
I think we're losing the audio from your site, but he threw his shoe to knock it loose. And look, he throws his shoe up in the tree, and it's, guess what? Now the shoe's stuck. So next thing he did, he tried and threw a cat at the kite. And you know what? The cat got stuck in the tree. And then he threw a ladder. Now think about it. He was thinking about using a ladder, but he threw the ladder in the tree, and guess what? It got stuck. He then threw some paint up in the tree, and it got stuck. A duck, a chair. He even threw a bicycle up in the tree. He got a kitchen sink. He did a car. Guess what else? He threw an orangutan up in the tree. And you know what happened to all of them? Stuck, stuck, stuck. Well, then he got a little bit more ambitious. He tried a rhinoceros. He threw it up in the tree. He took a truck and threw it up in the tree. He took a ship and threw it up in the tree. And guess what? He threw a house, a whale, and the whole fire department truck. And guess what? They all got stuck.
I knew it.
So guess what Floyd figures out? He has an idea. So he got a saw. And what do you think Floyd did with the saw?
Cut it down the tree.
That's a great guess. But you know what? He threw the saw up in the tree, and that was it. The kite came down, and everything else stayed up in the tree. So this is a great story. This one's The Little Stuck. It's a board book. But then there's a little bit bigger book called Stuck, which is just a great story about what we all remember from our kites. So Pam, with that said, I'm going to get back on our screen here real quick.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Samantha did a great job of reading it. We just lost some of our connection there. We got a little unstable, and so we apologize for that. But it happened.
The family activity that I'm going to leave you all, we're going to leave you all with is the whole idea of get outside and fly your kites. That's one of your great family activities. It's going to be a little colder this weekend, so maybe not so much flying your kite. But you know, this is Northeast Ohio, so we're always going to have some wind. If you get a chance, visit a local hobby shop or a craft store and take a peek at those different types of kites. Remember we played that video and the girls had those different delta wing kites? You'll see kites like box kites and delta wing kites. Go to your local hobby store or your craft store. Believe it or not, in this area, there actually is a kite club, a Northeast Ohio Kite Club. So reach out to them, have your parents go on the internet, look at the Northeast Ohio Kite Club, and maybe they have an opportunity for you to see other folks flying kites. And then, like we did here, take a look and read the book Stuck by Oliver Jeffers like we did, and use that just to talk a little bit more about kites.
And Jeff, we would like people to fill out our event survey. Want to tell them more about that?
Well, actually, before we go there, Pam, I want to just make sure that folks know our next session is next Saturday. For folks coming back here to OWOW, make sure you register. If you go to the Canfield Library, that's another site. We're going to talk about paper airplanes and we're going to connect those to kites. We're going to build some paper airplanes. We're going to fly some airplanes. It's going to be really a lot of fun. So please take that opportunity to register for that. And Pam, you want to talk a little bit about that final survey?
Oh, sure. We have this event survey, and this project, what we're able to do, was funded by a grant from WETA out of Philadelphia. And they really would like to know your thoughts about this and other outreach events. So if you will take that survey, that helps them and helps us. So scan that QR code there and fill out the survey and help us know more about what you thought of this event. Thank you.
Folks, I can't thank you enough for your time today. It's kind of like, it's not herding cats, it's herding kites. How's that? So we certainly appreciate you. We appreciate you watching PBS and being part of our PBS family. We'll look forward to seeing you next Saturday. If you've got any other friends and family you want to bring along, please do that. And if not, feel free to wrap up your kites, and really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. And while you're here, enjoy OWOW too.
And enjoy the Canfield Public Library.
Thank you. Thank you.